We talk football and current events, sitting and chatting with the very best guests. With two Scottish boys and we're loving it. So if you like witty banter, check the former #1 podcast on iTunes. Sitting and chatting.
Hello and welcome back to Sitting and Chatting podcast. I'm Whyte.
I'm Allan.
I'm Samantha Barr.
Sam, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm getting there.
Having car troubles, which everyone loves beforehand.
Yeah. Look, I always got to love the car breaking down constantly.
No, I can't relate at all. I've never had car issues in my life. No. I mean, at least not through my own fault most of the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Most of the time, I no bother. You drive like a dick. You deserve the car troubles.
That is fucking bullshit, and you know it.
I'm not commenting on that one.
100%.
Yeah, sensible. Thank
The harsh braking, terrible gear changes.
Oh, right, okay, right. Do you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to put a dash cam in your car and fucking expose you next to you, dick.
Sammy picked me up the other night to go down to his house to watch football, and I swear I almost went through the wind.
Fuck off!
8 times. It was actually a disgrace.
No, do you know what? I'm not taking this.
You can sit there and try and defend, but the point is, you're wrong.
No, I'm not taking this.
I almost died.
Yeah, no.
See, like, touch wood, I've been fine. Liam's never crashed ever.
Thank you, Sam. Cheers.
You ever been in the car with him?
Yes.
Exactly. See.
But the worst time was at the country roads where we went filming, and it was like the middle of nowhere, and it was just
for
going tons of lads like that.
No, look, I'm a sensible driver. Right, anyway, before I get a fucking notice from my insurance company, Sam, what's your earliest memory? Taking all the way back to the start.
That's that question. I'm not sure. Probably just been on holiday, different places and things like that. Like when I was little, very big memories of like nice weather, being on holiday at Spain or Portugal, whatever that things. Yeah. Nothing.
A luxurious life then, clearly, compared to most.
Better than mine anyway. I never went on holiday.
No, that's a lie.
It's not a lie, let's be honest, but it's not exactly.
No, you've been offered to go on holiday, you just don't take it.
What do you mean I've been offered?
I swear, like, your parents and that have like gone to Greece every year, and you're just like,
well, you're full of shit. How about that? You're full of shit. No, yeah. Last holiday I went on was July 2019.
Exactly. You're all more recently than me, you dick.
I know, but that's normal for everybody due to the fact Corona's been here.
Exactly.
But prior to that, it was 12 years prior to that, so don't start a push.
If you weren't such a wee bitch travelling, then you'd be fine.
Fuck you.
No, so yeah. What was early life then like in the Sam Barr household? What was growing up like?
Very normal. very plateaued, very normal. We used to have a dog that I loved. We used to be able to play a bit hard on that, and I also a rabbit, which kept me busy. That was my pet. I got to look after it, and it was mine, and that was pretty cool. And yeah, just basic. Go to school, go abroad, go here, go there.
Living the good life. Where are you from then originally?
Glasgow, which you can probably tell voice-wise and accent-wise.
You'd be surprised, honestly, the amount of like guests or viewers that we've had that have thought they were from Ireland, Australia, England. It's pretty shocking, to be honest.
It's because I do a fucking mean Irish accent. That's why.
Yeah, but you don't do it every single episode. It's not like it's a common thing.
Granted, fine, fair enough. But it's not a point. And obviously the shrimp and the barbie situation, you know what I mean?
The what?
But you say the Australians, you know what I mean? And shrimp and the barbie, I'm unbelievable with it as well.
That is fucking horrible.
No, I never tried it. They're your fan, come on.
I thought that was your impression.
Let's stop trying to put me on blast there, fuck's sake.
You've done that.
I don't know how people find you Irish or you from Glasgow, Rolian, because your accent's going to be the worst out of the lot of us.
The Southern accent.
Oh, it's horrid.
You may have the same accent.
No, you
don't.
Thank you. She's been in the call less than 5 minutes and she's already told you that you're a fanny. Without saying it.
I'm not saying that.
Exactly. Without saying it. But she means it.
We've been out a couple of times and people are like that. Where are you from? It's to Liam. I'm like, he's from here. You look like you're really bored with the Irish.
It's the it was when we went out the other night with the college folk, and it was the folks sitting across from us that thought we were all a table full of Irish people. That was pretty bad, especially considering two of them were from Stirling. That made it a wee bit worse.
Oh, definitely, I know. Oh,
No, so obviously growing up and that. How many siblings you have?
2. So my wee brother's 21 in August, so it's a big birthday for him, and my wee sister's 10. So that's good. I'm used to it.
How is it then being the oldest in that household?
I mean, I'm used to it. I don't want anything different, but yeah, it's kind of one of these things that's quite daunting when people are like that. Oh, your wee sisters, I must look up to you. I'm like, please don't. Like, there's so many mistakes.
Do you get that?
Getting Liam's car was a big mistake for you.
Fuck off.
That was probably one of your biggest, to be honest. But hey, we'll move on for that. We digress, you know.
Definitely.
But Liam, on the siblings factor, right?
Mm.
Obviously, you kind of relate. Being the oldest, what a feeling, am I right? It's so great, honestly. It's just looking down on wee peasants that are younger than you. It's just fucking great, man. So it is. But 21 is a big birthday.
Yeah.
Liam had a big do for his, and I done nothing for mine.
See, I miss Liam because I went to a festival and I remember him texting me saying, "Oh, we're going out," and I'm like, "I'm not here. I'm so sorry."
It's always that thing as well of just like, even though in Scotland, obviously, like 21's no different from 20. I mean, like, you can't really do anything. It's still got that sort of Americanization of it's the big one. You need to make the most of it because the next big one's like when you're 30 kind of thing. And, you know, no one wants to fucking celebrate turning 30. So it's the last one you can actually properly enjoy.
So 21, you maybe want to celebrate like 50 at a push, but...
Unless you're like, me celebrates every fucking year.
I mean, you say I celebrate, I have an excuse to go to the pub, I think is my way of doing it.
Liam, we celebrate every year.
Yeah, exactly, you know.
No, you know what? I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you.
Listen, just because our friends, Jamie, and you do that's fine. Listen.
It's a gutting situation.
Are you then in charge of planning? Has he done anything special for it then or not?
No idea yet. I've got a wee while to wait, so we're not too sure. And obviously some restrictions and that, you need to be like, where can we book? Where's going to be open? So we're hoping. Hopefully things will happen.
I think by that point, I mean, has he had his vaccine yet?
The both of us have only had one. We got it on the exact same day, so we're waiting for the second. So
I think then by that point, though, if you've had one, you'll probably get away. And if like his mates and that have had it, you'll probably be safe by that point, I'd imagine.
Well, definitely, yeah. Just try to tie everything together.
Nah, the joys. But then what was it like then being the oldest sibling? Were you the kind of like speaking to obviously like our friend Tasha and that beforehand, because obviously she had like her younger brother. She'd always try to put him in his place and that. Were you similar growing up or not? Were you more kind, basically?
I don't want to say anything against Tasha. I'm friends with Tasha.
No, not against Tasha, just yourself, obviously. How would you judge yourself being an older sister?
Like, well, we were always kind of, it was only like 2.5 years between us, so we're pretty close in that sort of sense. So when I was at school, he was at school. When I was at nursery, he was like about to start nursery, things like that. So I never really seen it as having an age gap. I just kind of thought he's my brother rather than being younger as such. And it was just funny, like maybe going to things like high school and that, having that slightly bit more experience. And he's like, "Oh, what's it going to be like?" I'm like, "It's going to be like this." Now my wee sister, it's such an age gap with her, so now the both of us are a bit like that. Oh my God, we remember being that age, and that was so long ago. Yeah,
like for me that would be like so weird and that, just like walking down like the corridor and like seeing your sibling and that, like especially like at high school, that was like, you never had that, Jamie, did you? Your sister had
fuck. No. But she's 17, so
she's in her last year then now.
No, she's left, but I know what you mean.
Well, like she's at that age.
You were doing the same path as me. She built on 4th year. I've never been so proud of her.
As all the best people do, aye.
Exactly. I've never been so proud of her. The only time, but never been so proud, honestly. And she's learning to drive now, man. It's all mad how old she is now.
Didn't you say the other day you thought she was still 15 and it was her 17th birthday coming up?
Who the fuck knows all of that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there is a Facebook birthday hidden for a reason as well.
I don't have her on Facebook.
Well, there you go. There's a mistake.
Exactly.
No, do you feel like, were you sort of then entrusted more than by your parents? Like, did you have to look after them quite a lot then growing up?
Not really, like, because me and my brother were so like kind of close age wise, everything I did we did. So we both got looked after, we both went together, so we was kind of like in that sense. And then having my wee sister, it's just really strange because there will be times when parents are about or like my brother are out, and I'll go and look after your wee sister. I'm like, this is strange, I'm trusted with this. Like in my head, I'm not as old as I am. I kind of still think I'm like maybe 16, 17 when I'm not. So the responsibility is a bit strange.
I think that happens with everyone though. Once you get to a certain point, your parents actually start treating you like an actual adult. It can kind of be a bit odd, especially for like yourself and that if you're still living at home as well, I suppose. So what was school then like for you?
It says, I think, the kind of most like typical experience of school possible, which is really basic and boring.
What school did you go to?
So I went to St Michael's and St Maurice's. So we Catholic schools, but yeah, it was good.
Are your parents Catholic? Is that how you got in? Or?
Aye, well, it was cause where we live. It's like you get into the area sort of thing. But I was christened in that, so you should have like christening, a baptism certificate, and things like that. But they don't really care as much anymore. It's just kind of where you live lets you into certain schools as such, and Cumbernauld lets you into wherever. So
You're missing the key letter in that there. It's S at the start. That's it. It's Cumbernauld by a brief stretch. And it said that. No, what a horrible place.
it's not my favourite, but I'm used to it.
Oh, what?
So it sounded like a unique experience going there.
Yeah, definitely.
I found that out when we were driving through it the other night. It's like a fucking Formula 1 grid with all the fucking bendy paths that you have to go through to get around it, man. Fucking nightmare.
That's how you learn to drive. It's concrete and roundabouts, and there's a few cities in like Scotland that are the exact same, and they just kind of mirror images of each other, and it's just hell. But
We also done football earlier.
Yeah.
And we had bad experiences.
I don't think that was necessarily Scumbernald's fault. I think that was more our own fault for that bad experience.
Nah, the police gets punished 100%.
Yeah, true. Did you do quite well at school then, Sam? How do you think like you'd done overall, would you say?
It depends what course you're what subject you're talking about. Maths maybe not so much, but English and that, yeah, I was decent. I was not bad at it. I got into uni, so that's what I wanted, so I was happy with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what to be fair, I think that's what most folk when they go into school, because it's all the same. If you provided you do enough to get into university, that's considered a success for most people anyway. So
yeah.
I mean, fucking hell, they let me in, so they'll let anyone in pretty much.
Was it that?
I vouch for that.
Yep.
Massively.
Not Jamie though.
No.
Anyone but Jamie, I should have said.
Aye, fuck university. Fuck school.
I
Fuck
would have-
education.
I would have fucking loved to have seen you do university. There would have not been a person that would have looked more out of place in a university than
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
you would have not found
You
it at
are
all.
a fanny for even saying that.
you would have.
Listen, I look at a place absolutely nowhere. I'll have you know.
You would have barred fuck out of everyone in that uni. You would have hated it.
I could fit in. Honestly, I could fit in at a ladies' restroom. I am that fucking well suited to anywhere.
You tried. I think that's
I've not tried, but what I'm saying is I could fit in anywhere. I didn't look at a place anywhere, Liam. I can't believe you even said that.
True, sorry. You're like a fucking chameleon, you can adapt to any situation.
Exactly. You better believe it.
Anyway, I'm not ignoring his pish. So obviously you got like the grades and that, you done pretty decently. Did you have an idea at school of what you actually wanted to do or wanted to be?
I mean, yes and no. It's one of these things where, like, obviously, P1, P2, people say, "Oh, what do you want to be?" And I was like, "I want to be a vet. I pass out the blood, and I like animals too much, so I can't be a vet. I can't do anything medical. I can't do anything like that." So I think I was kind of loaded. Like, I like doing media stuff. I like doing photography. I like doing videos. I thought, well, I'll pick a course doing that as such. And I remember because the work experience nowhere took me on doing photography or video because I was too young, and I was like, "Oh, right, okay, maybe it's not a good idea."
And then was this like when you were at school doing like work experience?
Yeah.
Right.
So like fourth year, like I need to go for like a week's work experience. I was like, all right, okay, I'll go do like video or photography. Emailed everyone, no one got back to me, no one wanted to take me on. I was like, all right, cheers, thank you. And I applied for uni. I was just like, go for it, just try media and see what happens. So yeah.
It was the same as well when I tried it because I realised at that point I wanted to do media, but the only place it would take me was a newspaper, and it's just like, it's kind of close enough. It's a similar enough experience, but yeah, it's not really. I think I suppose the one thing I've noticed from doing that course and trying to do jobs afterwards is that it's quite difficult to get into media. There's for some reason it's quite difficult to do that job. I don't know why.
Oh, definitely. And a lot of people are like, oh, should go do freelance. And I'm like, during a pandemic when we graduated, should we go do freelancing when there's no jobs available? You're a bit like that. I'll wait again, see what happens.
It's that thing as well of unless like you're obviously working for like a high-end like movie production like that's run by like Tom Cruise, the likelihood of a set with 150 people on it every day probably won't be actually working.
No, definitely, yeah. And that was my thing last year. I thought if I can't get a job in media, I'll go back to uni. And obviously the pandemic happened and I thought there's no media jobs, nothing's happening, back to uni.
I mean, you know, to be fair, I kind of rate it because, you know, I mean, I was just kind of sitting at home waiting to go back to work, not doing anything, whilst, you know, you actually made the most of the time. And compared to most people as well, who are kind of sitting on their arse doing nothing, suppose that kind of helped. Suppose that kind of helps, so because in a way, at least, you know, maybe a year's down the line when you're in an interview, you'll actually say, oh yeah, by the way, I actually done something when other people weren't. So more sensible than most.
I liked the idea of it till I realised I had to pay my fees, and I was like, oh, maybe not.
Didn't you get like extra year though, because it's a master's, or like does
no, because you're a postgrads, you're automatically kind of entered into, oh, it's a different style of funding, it's all these different things. I was like, all right, okay, and the more I googled it, I was like, all right, I am paying for this. But yeah, it's worth it, hopefully.
So it's basically another scam, is what it is.
Yeah, it's been $3,000 for about 60 Zoom calls. But yeah.
Oh no, bad actually. No, like we'll come back to like your time that in college and that beforehand, but like, do you like has that made you more pissed off that if you realised it would have just been $3,000 for Zoom calls, would you have done it if that?
It's kind of complicated because I thought like maybe this time last year I thought I don't want to sit doing nothing, I'm not going to get a job, so what do I do for the next foreseeable 6 months, 12 months? And when my work had shut down and things like that, I thought, well, I can't go there full time, I can't do anything like that. So I thought, realistically, what do I want to do for like a year? And I thought, well, I like doing music, I quite enjoyed uni as such, like kind of doing studying and research and things like that. So I thought I'll go pursue it, and I thought, and if I can get funding not to pay fees, great. Then they're like that, oh yeah, we'll pay half your fees, but still paying $3,000. And I was like, well, right, okay, we'll go for it. And hopefully, my whole class and I hope things would open by Christmas. And we got to Christmas, like, oh yeah, you'll never come on campus really apart from the library. And we're like, right, okay, cool, right, we're already in it now. But yeah.
So like, would you have, if you knew all this going back a year ago, would you have still done it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just more for me, it's the satisfaction. I've spent these 12 months of doing something, and it might have cost, but then I've still got the experience and things like that. So I'm like, it's worth it.
Do you think as well it'll maybe give you an edge going forward that other people wouldn't have, and like say a job like interview and all that?
I mean, I'd hope so. I'd hope that would be the outcome for it. But at the same time, it's kind of opens me to a lot more kind of networks and things like that. And because the course is slightly different from media, I've kind of got like access to both networks and things like that, which is quite good.
So you think that'll obviously like help you maybe not just get into that field, but also like another field as well?
Yeah, hopefully.
That's fair. Well, going back then, obviously, you obviously joined the wonderful Forth Valley Digital Media, who at this point I'll have had pretty much everyone that went to that course in that year on this podcast at some point. What was your experience like there? How did you enjoy it?
The first 2 days, I was not sure about staying, just because I thought I'm going to start this course, I don't know a single person, walked in a room and people were talking to each other because everyone had the same flats, were in the flats and things like that. And I was like, why am I here? Who do I know? And then the more I got to know people, and the more I kind of thought, right, okay, the course seems decent. I like the people, I like the course, I like lectures. I thought, nah, I'm staying. Like, that was it. Yeah, it was good.
That's good then. At least you decide. Was it just like a fear sort of thing, or the unknown, like because you didn't know anyone?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I just remember the very first couple of classes, I was kind of sat here like, do I really want to do this for 4 years? But kind of the more obviously you learn about things and the more you progress, I thought, no, I'm happy. Yeah, and then becoming friends with people, you're like, no, I don't want to leave because I'm with them. I really like them and things like that. So yeah, like the people make up 90% of the experience, but
I mean, I felt like that's the same way as well, especially for the first 2 years. That was the way for me, at least. But like what was, I suppose, like then for anyone listening that may either be like on their summer holidays and going into uni next year, or maybe not sure about whether or not to do it, what would be like your advice before going in? Like, what advice would you give someone before starting uni? What to think about?
I was always very like not so much scared. Like I thought, I don't need my friends with me, I can do this myself, sort of thing. In the back of my head, I thought, you don't know anyone, you're going to be terrible, everyone's going to be better than you, and it's that whole fear of you don't know who you're going with, but no one's better than what you are. Like, you've all got different experience, you've all got different skills in that. So I think it's just mostly being not scared of it as such. And yeah, it will be difficult, and it will be a bit like, oh my god, I don't want to be here. But once you get over that barrier, you really do start enjoying it and things like that. So yeah, just not being maybe scared as much.
So did you, so like, I presume all your other mates then from like school and that went off to do other different things as well in different areas. Was that, like, have you ever been in Stirling before? Was that something that put you off, obviously having to like travel back and forth every day?
I had been like, when we used to go to Stirling, it was mostly like a day trip. So like you go to the Thistles and you go early morning, you go and wander about and you go to like the monument or whatever. But I had never just been like in Stirling for one purpose, being like uni or school or anything like that. But I enjoy driving, I enjoy getting the food and stuff in. So I was like, I don't mind doing that. And that's kind of, it made it more an event, like I'm going to uni, I'm going to do this thing in this place. And it almost felt like going to work as such. And it was just, it was good. I liked it, enjoyed it.
No, that's good. How come then, I suppose you didn't do the traditional sense of going in dorms? What put you off it then?
Nothing had put me off, like basically, it was just because I was already working through here and I really loved my job and I didn't want to give that up. No. So I thought I can still drive, I can like commute through, I can still go to work, and I always have that kind of in the background. And I got to second or third year and I thought maybe I should just move to Stirling and give it up, and I thought, no, I like my job too much, I'll stay.
Do you not regret it though, that you missed out on that kind of sort of, I don't want to say like freshers experience because it's for a full year obviously, but do you feel like you managed to miss out on something as a result, or are you quite happy that you didn't do it?
I guess it's mixed, because there was obviously there's some nights out that were like spontaneous. It was, oh, let's go out, and you're living 30-40 minutes away, you need to get picked up, you need to get dropped off, things like that. And like I never had an issue, my parents would drop me off if I wanted to, that, but in the back of my head I was like, nah, it's fine, I don't mind it. So yes and no. I don't regret it, but it's something I know if I experienced it, I wouldn't have been mad if I experienced it. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my god, I've made a mistake. I'm not happy with it.
Think of all the incredible nights you missed out on in Dusk and Foo Bar. That must haunt you every night before you go to bed.
I've never been in Dusk and I've never been in Foo Bar, so I'm not missing it.
I don't blame you for Dusk, but you should try for the bar at one point.
Nah, I mean, you should avoid what this cunt's saying to you and avoid Foo
Dusk
Bar.
is full of wee lassies, it's the only reason you go, Liam.
Fuck up. It's just overpriced Foo Bar. But I mean, both are shitholes, but you know, it's what makes the town.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, fuck off. What a terrible.
You know they're both shit as well. Don't try and fucking come at me and say they're great.
Foo Bar's good. It's always been good. And at one point it was the best nightclub in Scotland.
The best nightclub in Scotland. You've got such amount of experience from all the other nightclubs in Scotland.
Listen, I'm not talking about recent, I'm talking about back in the day.
How long ago are we talking?
About 10, 15 years ago, but that's not a point.
Only when we were in the ripe old age of like 5 or 6, it was the best in Scotland.
The best when everyone was shut.
Yeah,
that's an outrageous statement for somebody that's not been there. Outrageous.
I've heard horror stories.
Do you know what the Foo Bar stands for, Liam?
Fucked up beyond belief.
Fucked up beyond all recognition.
All recognition, sorry.
That's exactly the sort of place you want to go. So I'm trying it. Don't try Dust, so.
Well, I was going to say though, you're the going back to, I suppose, then nights out of that, you're not the biggest of drinkers then, are you, Sam?
No, not at all. Mainly because I drive, so I'm usually the friend. If we go to gigs or we go out, I'm the one that I'll drive, it's fine. I hate getting buses and I get lost with trains. So like, I'll drive, I'm fine. And I'm very much a lightweight. So like, you've seen it yourself, I'll take like 2-3 shots and I'm going like, I don't know what I'm doing.
No, I mean, but to be fair, I'm a driver as well. But I mean, to be fair, I don't have to travel 30 or 4 minutes home, so that'll be the main
When they
reason.
call you a driver.
We're not gonna
Having
do
said that, though, I used to be the person that used to drive to the fair bar and go home the same night in the car. And you know, I only stay 10 minutes away, but that's how little I give a fuck about drinking. But to be honest, as soon as you go in dusk, you need to drink or to get you through it. That's how bad it is.
Did you not used to get like, were you no fed up though, Jamie? Like if you used to go into like food bar or that and you're no drinking everyone and all your mates are?
No.
No.
When we went to dusk, aye, because I mean, we all know what dusk stands for. But if we went to dusk, you would have to drink and leave the car. But if we went to food bar, it was fine.
Because like if like I go into a pub or that, I could quite easily like not have a drink and just sit there and just enjoy myself. But I can go into any club and not have a drink and enjoy myself. It's just not. You always have to be in a certain mindset, I think, for it, and especially now because it's been probably about 2 years since I've been in one, and it'll need to be the same when I eventually go back.
Yep.
Right, I'm not like fucking 30 by the time it comes back around. But obviously as well, like I'd always sort of say that you've always like been like mainly into like music as like one of like your main hobbies, I think is sort of fair to say. Is that kind of like an influence from like your parents or like influence from friends or just yourself?
I mean, like if you say to my parents what makes me like music, they'll say it's them. Because they were always brought up listening to like Radio 1. They've got the really specific DJs in mind, and it's like certain genres and things like that I can like typically associate to them. Right. But I really got interested in music kind of maybe starting like when I was maybe 15, 16. Like that was kind of when I hit my emo phase. I hit it, went through the wall. So I kind of hit the point where I was like, why am I crying at this song? And it was a whole Panic at the Disco phase, everything. It was horrid. But at that point, I was really interested in kind of like upcoming musicians and upcoming artists and things like that. And that kind of then started sustaining. So I then became the weird indie kid in class, being like, who's this band that no one's heard of? And people, I'm like, I like them. But yes, I've just kind of like carried that through. So doing media and things like that as well, I just kind of tried to integrate as much as I could in that course to everyone's detriment.
No, I mean, I think it helps as well, though, like, because especially in our first year, in our second year, when we'd done like the summer festival up at the toll booth and that, I think it helps for certain things like that when you won't have these big name artists around you and you have to go to like the wee gigs with like 50 people in them sort of thing, and providing if you're able to have a good time and enjoy their music, I think you can have a good time in that. And I think it sort of helps as well if like you yourself, you've been to these sorts of gigs and you can maybe appreciate it more than someone that's never been to one of these before.
No, definitely. Because I think, I mean, the lecturers probably hated me for it, but everything I submitted, I was like, well, here's music, here's photos, here's this, here's that. And they're like, all right, cool, do you want to write something else? I'm like, no. I know what I like, I know what I can talk about.
That's the thing though, like once you stick to something that you know, then, you know, it's best probably just to stick down that route if you're good at it. So like, would you then take, since like you're obviously saying that you're probably quite into indie music, would you always take like an indie concert with like 50 people in a tiny room over a proper festival at Wembley or Hampden or something like that?
For the most part, yes. Obviously working in Hydro, I've got the work element of it is I get to see massive acts and get paid to see them. But if I'm going to gig myself, I will be in like wee venues like King Tut's or Stereo and Audio. But a lot of the time, if I'm doing like gig photography and things like that, it is small wee venues anyway, and I still enjoy them the same, but I just treat them as being different. If that makes sense? It's a totally different experience. You expect different things from it. But yeah, they're kind of smaller venues. Like that's what you want to be.
Who's the best people you've ever seen live?
Oh, so ask that. Stereophonics are one of my favourites, mainly because that was the last gig I went to pre-pandemic. So that was 11th of March, and the last song was Dakota, and everyone was singing it, and that's the song I've been listening to since I was so little.
What a band.
So that was 11th of March, and I got a text on the 13th of March saying the venue's closing, we won't be opening due to the pandemic, and we've never opened since. So in the back of my mind, that's the last song I heard playing was Dakota, and it was live, and it was just
really?
Yeah.
Oh well, at least it went out on a banger then, I suppose.
Oh, definitely.
Have you been to any then since everything's opened again then, or have you not had the chance yet?
Not at all. And pretty much now what's happening is there's a lot of things on social media, so I won't jump into it. But there's the whole thing to do with grassroots culture and things. A lot of venues are at risk of total closure because they're not letting gigs happen still.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, all these wee trial events are happening down south, but in Glasgow, everything's you can't go in. There's no live music happening. There's no venues. So there's a lot of people kind of turning to like busking in the streets and things like that, and having like wee meetups in the parks. They try and do live music in a safe, controlled kind of setting, but there's nothing at the scale or the way it should be happening now. So,
Never really understood it though, because obviously they're allowing like the fan zones for the football, but they'll not let the same amount of people gather to listen to music. I just still don't get it at all.
Have they given a reason why it's like that?
No, and that's the biggest problem, because there's all these different campaigns that happen right now to do with like supporting live music and grassroots venues and all things like this. But there was posts, I think it was the other day, and I'm talking about if Wimbledon goes ahead, there's so many thousand people. If obviously things for the Euros and that, there's so many thousand people in all these in these stadiums every day, every few days. But you won't let 500 people be socially distanced in a venue. What's the difference? And the government says, oh well, people will sing or people will jump about. I'm like, no, if you give them a seat and you say you need to stay quiet for COVID reasons, they'll do it. And like all these events have proven that.
Depends if there's alcohol involved as well, I suppose. Yeah. So there's just so many factors. Like you see it, it's
the same as well though for like football. You know, you can't expect folk at the fan park and that to sit down, no sing a song, no jump up if someone scores. Like it's exactly the same.
Exactly. Go look at it when Scotland scored their first only goal of the tournament. The place went mental. They were all cuddling on the tables and all that. So that's another bit mental. They were all cuddling and jumping about on the tables, but you know, and it's the same when you see the Euros on the telly when like a team scores, all the fans are jumping about from seat to seat in the stands. So
yeah, it'd be no different that if it was a concert.
There is no difference. I don't get it at all. But
no.
I suppose the only difference is that they're outside, aren't they? And you're wanting it in a venue, so it's it's not outside.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it though, couldn't you? I know, like obviously these places need to survive by having these events indoors, but even just for the time being, wouldn't there be an option to do stuff in like parks or like, you know, like you're saying, sort of busking in the streets, but obviously to a bigger crowd, would that not be able to go ahead at all?
Well, this is the whole argument. Like this is the thing that's happening right now. If you look back and all the things that have happened during COVID, Music Venue Trust have been pushing. They needed emergency funding, right? They needed £50 million in emergency funding to support 600 venues for like 6 months, which doesn't, it seems quite a lot, but when you break it down, it's not, right? The live music industry makes over £1 billion a year in money towards the economy. So you're saying that's very little what you're asking the government to support you with, and the government are like, we're not doing it. And you look at all the pleas and all the emergency funding, kept getting denied, and they're saying, well, why are you so against supporting culture? You're letting the sports happen, you're celebrating all these things. Boris Johnson's going about how great it's been, but you're not letting culture take place, and you're like what's happening? But yeah, like big festivals. So Download just happened the weekend past there, and I think it was 50,000 people, and it was a 3-day festival, and it went great. There's been no so far like COVID cases caught from that, and there was pilot events in Liverpool the other month, no COVID cases. But yet they're still holding back. No venue, no live music can happen, no theatres can open. And you're like, well, why? What's the difference at this point?
Because Nicola's waiting on Boris, he's okay. That's what's happening right now. Me, Boris is just sat there like, nah, we'll rack the money here in England. Yeah. And that week I'll wait on my say-so. That's exactly what's happening. It's always the same. She's a sheep. She's a wee follower. And Liam.
I'm not saying anything.
No, alright, okay, fair enough. That is genuinely the reason, though. She's waiting on the say-so to go ahead with stuff like a 50,000 people event, which in the grand scheme of things, if you put it into a massive area, isn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If they're all like obviously like social distance.
Aye, well, to an extent, 100%.
I mean, yeah. Well, hopefully something will happen soon then as a result.
Yeah, that's something. All these festivals have been moved for September, and you're like, will they actually take place in September? Who knows? Hopefully. I don't know.
the Reading and Leeds Festival still going ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's in August, yeah.
That's still going ahead, so that's mad.
I'm going to Neighbourhood in September, hopefully, which is down towards Liverpool, driving down to that, and things like Transmitting that are happening. But big vet, like the Hydro's planned at the open in September. At this point, we're just kind of saying gigs will start happening then, and we're like, really? Like indoors?
I think it's that way. Although they just need to kind of keep up hope, because if they say to you, again, when we're going to open, you'll probably at that point just think, actually, I'm a better just getting another job then at this point.
Yeah,
And then they have no staff when it comes to opening.
Yeah, I'm expecting to go back and not know half the staff there, or we'll be missing half the staff because people have had to go and get full-time jobs, they've had to go and change careers, or they've been ill and things like that. Yeah, it was fun.
See, on this whole topic, by the way, what is it you actually do?
I work part-time in the hydro doing the security.
Right,
So
okay.
pre-COVID, I did that, and I did freelance photography, doing like gig photography and things like that. But then when the minute COVID hit, I was like, I don't have a job, I don't have any part-time kind of work, so I'm like, I need to go work in a supermarket now currently.
But did you get that job at the hydro when you were in uni, or did you get that when you were still in school?
I had got, well, you can't work in there till you're 18 just to do
Okay.
security based. So I got it, I started uni in September and I got that in November. So yeah, pretty much the same.
See then, since you're working security and that, and obviously because of things that have happened, you know, like in Manchester especially, and that with the bombing like a few years back, I take it it's very like sort of strict, and you have to be on high alert all the time when obviously it takes place.
Yeah, well, there's like going to, like when I go to gigs, I go into venues and I'm like, in my head, I know the way things operate, I know the way things work. But when you're working in such a big venue, you're such a team. Like, you know every person in that team, you know who you're working with, you know exactly how to respond to things. So you are working with those ideas in the back of your mind, but at the same time, it's so ingrained into the job. You're looking after people, you're doing customer service, it's just kind of quite natural. But yeah, like when the Manchester inquiry was happening the other week, I was reading things about it and I was like, oh my god, that could, like, I can put myself exactly into that kind of, that event happening, or something to that extent happening where I work, and being like, that's a risk. Like, I've always kind of appreciated like, oh, the hydro's safe, and where the team I work with are great and I trust them, but at the same time I don't want to imagine an event like that happening and not knowing. Do you know what I mean? It's strange.
And in a sort of sense as well, does it almost mean that you guys are kind of more at risk in a sense because you're kind of the only place in Scotland like that? I know there's obviously like places where you can go to see like gigs in like, you know, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, all that kind of place, but the hydro's obviously like the big one that everyone knows about and goes to, so I presume it makes you guys more of a target, if that makes sense.
I don't know. Like, this is just the way we operate is we look after everyone and we look out for things. So I don't really know what it is like comparatively. And there's places like you have the Aberdeen Exhibition Centre, which is a bit like the SCC, only slightly, I think it's slightly smaller.
Yeah.
And they're obviously every, like if you walk into a shopping centre, that could be targeted for things. If you go to a church, that could be targeted. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know.
No, it's fair. I'm just curious.
What a nice topic to bring up, Liam, just for them.
What
see in
terms of like though, like see in terms of like when you work there, like what's the strangest or weirdest thing you've ever seen someone do when you've been on work?
Oh, don't ask that. There's a news story now. I think I take that gig a few years ago, and there was a woman that bit another woman. But at that night,
I like that.
On that night, we were getting told this had happened. We were having to deal with it, and I never really kind of compartmentalised that's what was happening as such. And it came up, it was like the Daily Mail the other day had wrote an article about it, and I was like, oh my god, that happened, and I forgot about that.
Did you say why she bit the other woman?
I don't know, because it was the other side of the venue for where I was, but someone had said it over the radio, oh, this has happened, and I was like, I've heard that wrong, that's not true. And when I read it in that thing, I'm like, oh my god, like, kind of just came flooded back to me, like, that happened, like, what?
I'm actually going up to like a security guard with like fucking jaw marks on like your shoulders. I'm like, that woman just bit me over there. I fucking take that conflict.
Oh, it's like every shift in my work, no two shifts were the same ever, just with things that could go wrong, things that would happen, just like, it was bizarre, but at the same time I loved it because it kind of kept it interesting all the time.
Did you have to often, because I presume as well, like you would have seen like not just like music acts, but maybe like comedians and like different sort of shows. Mm-hmm. Who is there? Did you have to deal with like the talent, I suppose, quite often as well, or is it just the sort of like customers that you're dealing with?
99% of the time it's customers, but what happens is sometimes you'll be working at a gig and we'll maybe have like VIP people coming, but sometimes you don't know who's coming. So I've worked with like Susan Boyle, take her to a seat. Lewis Capaldi turned up at a couple of gigs without us knowing, and we had to kind of get him reseated, things like that. But yeah, 99% of the time it's you're working with customers, or if not, you're put in like the kind of pit areas, which is between you and the stage. So sometimes you're having to work with their security teams and things like that, which can kind of get interesting. But yeah, people mainly Glaswegians.
Have you ever had a bad experience with one of the talent? Has there ever been someone that's just been like a dick to like the security guards and that?
Not that I've ever came across, no. And I've never heard any like bad stories about it. But I'm not sure.
You're just not want to say in case you get in trouble when this.
No, I genuinely like see if someone's
like Lewis Capaldi flying kicked a member of staff, and you're just
Lewis Capaldi would be the last person I expect to do anything.
No, I'm pretty sure like the Daily Mail or something would have written about it if anything had happened. But yeah, no, I've never. Everyone's been lovely.
That's good. But you say then that you're looking quite, once obviously everything opens again, are you looking quite forward to going back to it then?
Yes and no. Part of me, yes, I am dying to go back, but in my like when we had closed, when you kind of like when you start reflecting on what was happening last February when we were still open, Lewis Capaldi had 2 sold out nights at the Hydro, and I was putting a pit for both nights. Right, that's 14,000 people in a venue, and the only thing we had like COVID wise was like here's some hand sanitizer, and like that isn't okay, but that was okay at that time. So things like that are kind of like, oh my god, like why did we do that? So going back, I don't know how, like, do you need to wear a mask? Do people need to sit separately? I can't imagine that until I see it. So I want to go back and see it, but at the same time, I'm a bit like that.
Bit apprehensive.
Yeah.
But one other quick thing I just wanted to see is, like, obviously you're saying there, like, he done like 2 nights in a row. Do you ever, like, because also that you're working part-time, so you'll be doing different kind of shifts. Do you have to see sometimes the same people over and over again?
Yeah. So notoriously, Still Game did do a run kind of in between Christmas and New Year the other year. And I think I worked from like Boxing Day through to Hogmanay. And it was the same show multiple times a day, over and over and again, to the point I thought, put me anywhere but inside that auditorium because I don't want to listen to it. So then when Still Game comes on the telly, people are like, you can watch that. I'm like, get that away from me. Or like Kevin Bridges, he does, I think it was a 20-odd date tour.
Yeah.
And I worked like 12. I worked 12 of the dates. And some of them were in a row. So you know every joke, you know every line. And sometimes there would be some nights where they would change wee bits and pieces, and you're like, oh, that's different. But at the same time, you're like, right, okay, I know what's about.
Doesn't it help when he's shite as well, isn't it? It must be hard.
Right. See as well, like, see when you're hearing as well, that's the thing, like, see even if he does say like a new joke though you're not expecting, you're not laughing because it's a new joke, all you're focused about is that's something new that I've not heard about, and now you focus on it again.
Well, that was the thing, because a lot of the times, like, I remember I took maybe 2 or 3 days off right in between the runner shows, and that was fine. So then when I went back the next night, when I started my next shift, I forgot everything for the 3 nights ago. So I was laughing at him, like, oh, have you not worked us? I'm like, oh no, I'm 6 shifts and I just can remember what he said before. So it was good in that sense. But
it must have been a great show if you can't remember what he said 3
I think I just started blocking it out. I think I just kind of at the point, like, when is 11:30? When is he going to finish? I want to go home, sort of thing.
Do you guys have to deal with like cleaning stuff up and that afterwards, or is that like another team that deals with that?
It kind of depends. Sometimes we have like Disney on Ice and like things with kids. So a lot of the time, just to help the cleaners, you'll have kids with like massive tubs of popcorn and just chuck them. And you're like that, right? I'll help you clean that because it's everywhere. But most of the time, we'll just finish shift, go home, and there's a whole different crew that come in and do things like that.
Imagine being the ones having to clean that up, man. 14,000 cunts.
The thing is, so right, what would actually be worse to do? Like, because is it the kids that you'd hope that are the worst with like throwing popcorn, or is it like the adults who are getting like too pissed and throwing up everywhere that are actually the worst?
I mean, touch wood, I've never had that. I've been in 4.5 years and I've never had someone be sick.
Liam just talks shit. Liam, nobody does that. Nobody goes and gets too pissed, man.
They don't do it near me. I think I'm very, very lucky because I only like drinks will get thrown constantly. People fight constantly, but I don't have like issues like that. But at the same time, you can have wee kids that are screaming their head off, and you're just like, please leave, just go away and stop screaming. Or the ones that get lost and you feel really bad for them, you're like, come on, we'll go find your mum or whatever. But then at the same time, you have really drunk people that you're having to work with and trying to help them downstairs, or they'll try to throw themselves over barriers and like, they're not going to come back, you need to be here. It depends the night.
Throw yourself with barriers, that's outstanding.
That's keen, you know. It would have been the same lass that was desperate to see Take That. She would have wanted to get closer and Gary Barlow. Just
fucking biting folk in our way, man.
I mind when I was there to see Mickey Flanagan live, and it was like a 25-degree day outside, unusual for Scotland.
Mhm.
And I think because like the noise of like the aircon, they couldn't put on the aircon, and 3 people like down the row like fainted because like the heat in that in the place, and everywhere was like sold out like water and that because like they just ran out. It must have been a fucking nightmare trying to coordinate that as well.
I can imagine.
Fucking hell.
Because the place is made of glass, and because where you sit in the Clyde, when it's really pretty, see when the sun sets, it's great, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But the problem is, see when the sun's midday and it's burning through the glass, it's like magnifying glass. It becomes like a microwave, basically. You're sweating for no reason, and you're like, it's only 12:30, I finish in 6 hours' time, I'm going to die. But yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound like the worst. Is it better than the supermarket, though? I take it.
100%.
Yeah, I could have guessed. Even after all that, it's still better than the average job that most people do.
Oh no, like genuinely, like, I love it. And see, when I see people, we used to say to me before, I was just do part time, but I'll work in a hydro, and like, all right, okay, and I'm like, well, let me tell you about it.
That's the thing, though. There's problems with every job, but if, like you said, you can make the most of it, though, I suppose that's the main thing.
No, definitely.
So we kind of alluded to it earlier, but apart from myself, when it comes to bad luck with cars, I think I've never seen someone quite have as much bad luck as you when it comes to cars. So, like me as well, you kind of enjoy driving as well, which is good, but your car record has been fucking appalling, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've only had 2, and I had a really low pole that was great until it died, and that was fine. Then I got a Corsa, and it's been hell. So I was kind of like, that car is cursed, it needs to go. I'll be fine.
Does it ever like put you off? Because there's so many times now where like I've had like just issues with cars and I've just thought I just need to give up now. Not even because I don't love it still, but just that way of like, I'm not sure I can handle the stress of getting another £1,000 bill to repair some part of the car I've never heard of before.
I mean, like, for me, my cylinder head gasket's gone twice in the space of 3 years. And I'm like, I don't know where that is. But see, the second time, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. That failed last time.
But yeah, like, you can go into the repair shop and just say straight away, have you checked that, by the way?
But I said, that's, see, when my car broke down, I had to phone my mum and dad. I'm like, look, it's did the same thing it did before. I know what's wrong with it. It needs fixed.
Take it.
Bonus.
Nah, like what, like, because as well, you've had like folk crash into you and that as well a few times, haven't you?
Well, it was just the ones, yeah. And
is it just? I thought you've had 2 crashes.
No,
No.
thankfully one. But what happened was someone bumped into me and bumped me into the person in front, and then they drove away. So I hit 2 cars, hit my car, but I hit one of them.
Yeah, but it's not your fault if they physically pushed you into the car.
Yeah. And again, that was me going to the hydro. We used to see Little Mix.
Is it Liam driving behind you by any chance?
Fuck off.
Big car.
Fuck off.
I was wondering if it was Liam.
You would have fired because he wouldn't have fucking broke. I've been straight in the back here. This podcast probably wouldn't be happening before. So that's true.
I'm just remembering this, by the way, for the next time your Corsa goes to fuck Jamie, and then I'll be reminding you of this.
My Corsa ever went out, fuck, touch wood, it's never done it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Touch wood, you know. It's a wee fucking Beambury, I'm never given me grief yet. It's coming, but
it's fucking coming, let me tell you.
Aye, but as soon as it first sign of trouble, catch. That's it, it's gone. It's fucking gone.
Auto trader.
It is gone, and I'm fucking car sharing with my mum or my dad, whoever wants.
I think you're going to be too impatient when it comes to that, you know. I think you're just going to be too fed up of their driving when you have to do it first.
No, I'll be driving the car, obviously.
Oh, right, okay.
Fuck's sake, yeah,
okay, I'll take it back then. Your parents are going to be fed up with you driving after you start.
They'll not be in this car at the same time, let's be real. You know what I mean? My mum hates going in the motor with me.
I wonder why.
Fuck knows why. I get her at A to B safe and rapid. I don't see the problem.
I'll get her there 10 minutes faster than any sat nav can ever predict.
Aye, but you know what I mean? As long as you're safe. Which is what I am.
We'll say no more on the matter.
Yeah. Well.
No, so what are the plans then coming up? Obviously, things are beginning to open up a wee bit more. Normality is becoming back-ish. I don't want to jinx it again. I really don't want to jinx it again. But
Definitely.
what are the plans coming forward? Anything big happening?
Not necessarily. It's just kind of like I'm doing my dissertation currently, so I'm trying to like pace my summer out by I'll have that hand in August and I'll be done and I'll be uni done again. But I like going down south for a few weeks, and just kind of going different places here and there, and my wee brother's birthday, and just I don't know, hopefully gigs at some point.
Enjoy life. I know.
Do
you think like come Christmas this will all be not over, because COVID will never be over as such, but to the point where things will be almost back to normal by that point?
I mean, I would hope so, but given the way things have been treated the last, like, so far, I mean, I know it's something so new and definitely difficult to deal with as such, but there's been like unnecessary lockdowns, there's been unnecessary restrictions that if it had been handled differently, we wouldn't be in this position currently. Something like that, I don't know. I hope we're better, but I don't know.
Partially hopeful because obviously recently in the news it's come out that a lot of men in particular aged between 20 and 30 in the last week have gotten quite ill with COVID, and I've no idea what possibly could have caused that. But that aside, you know, if that had happened last year, I think we would have been straight back into lockdown, but thankfully it's not happened yet, so I'm partially hopeful this time we might not have to deal with another one. Mainly because fuck knows what I'll do in my spare time. I mean, apart from the podcast, like I'll be bored to fuck otherwise.
Yeah, because I think it's a mental health aspect. I think more than ever they're like that. If you say to someone we're going into lockdown, there's all these charities are saying mental health rates are going through the roof basically because people can't cope and it's so difficult. And they're saying you can't have another lockdown because you will affect people so profoundly and so badly. How is that fair? Do you know what I mean? Like to live under and go through that basically that trauma again. So I think they're a bit like, we can't lock down things, but we kind of restrict things and bring things back open again.
I think it's bad as well, not just for like obviously like the younger people that will affect like the mental health issues, but you think about it as well, like all the old people that like live on their own and that and have no one to see or don't have as much contact with society. You put them in another 2-month lockdown again where they can't see anyone, they'll just be, you know, they probably won't even follow protocol, and then as a result they'll just get ill and things will get worse again.
Yeah.
So here's hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Can't think of anything else at the moment I wanted to bring up. So Jamie, do you want to start explaining the game?
Seriously, you should.
Seriously, Bagsy know me.
Well, you know, we're not in school, but right.
Right,
what's going to happen is we're going to play a game called Hot Seat, right? We're still waiting on a sponsor. I'm pretty sure that we've got the wrong email somewhere. But anyway, in regards to Hot Seat, what the aim of the game is you're going to get 10 categories, right? Now, with the categories, at the start, Liam will give you a letter of the alphabet, and you can re-roll the letter, right? But what then you have to do with the letter is, with the categories given to you, one at a time the categories will be, you have to use that letter at the start of the word that you're choosing for the category. So for example, if it was toiletries and your letter was T, you would just say toilet, and then it could be types of crisps and you could just say tortillo or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That sort of idea. Now the idea is get 10 writing as quick as you can. If you're struggling, pass it. It does add 5 seconds into your time. And if you get 5 wrong, it's a big massive DNF, which you will get 1 chance to reset the test, if you will. Fail it again. Fuck's sake, Liam, man. Fail the test again, but it's half. Well, but this way, it's never happened.
Well, it was a first.
Aye, but that's just true.
Just let you know as well, from people from our class that you know that have done this so far, the fastest we've had was Megan, who done it in 1 minute and 5, and the slowest we've had it was Lauren, who done it 1:33. So there's a kind of like benchmark of where you want to be, all right? And Tash, I think, done it 1:31. So you know. Anyway, Sam.
Well, you might be sitting at like 7 minutes.
Well, I mean, the slowest ever.
Just don't fuck it, chatting.
Perfect advice from Jamie.
Just don't fuck it.
Sam, your letter is W. Would you like to stick with W or re-roll?
I'll keep it.
You want to
Do
keep that? That's confidence right there.
I might regret it, but okay.
Right, so 3, 2, 1. Things that excite you.
We're watching.
Things that can get you fired.
Watching things you shouldn't.
Common surnames.
Washington.
Fictional characters.
Pass. I don't know.
Creepy crawlies.
Pass.
Reasons to call emergency services.
What?
Reasons to call the emergency services.
Pass.
A boy's name.
Oh, what's about W? William.
Colours.
Pass.
School supplies.
For God's sake. W. Waterville.
Clothing.
Waterproof.
Okay. Now,
Just know you're going again.
yeah. I mean, there's
That's a trial run on the
Right.
basis you chose W.
Why did you pick W? I don't know.
Also, as well, though, colours, and you can think of Whyte.
Aye, not only that, fictional character, Winnie the Pooh. Like, I'm
I
sorry.
went through so
The
many
fact
things.
you
in
call
my head.
that.
I just kind of started thinking Adventure Time, and I thought, nothing starts with W. I can't think. It's like,
I mean, like, you've done well a few ones, like, Washington and all that. That was pretty decent, but then it
That's
just kind of all went to pot. It's fine, you get one more chance and you'll get a better time. All I will say as well is you're only 2 seconds slower than Lauren, and you had that letter, so,
Yeah.
that's something maybe to say. Sam, your next letter is A. Would you like to stick with A or re-roll it?
stick with you. Go for it.
Okay,
It's easy.
last chance.
Let's keep it. That's better than W.
3, 2, 1. Places in Europe.
Amsterdam.
TV shows.
American Horror Story.
Things that are around.
Pass.
Video games.
Pass.
Things you replace.
Replace. Arms.
Words ending in N.
American.
Reasons to call the emergency services.
Arm is stuck in something.
Parts of the body.
Arm.
Things that you shout. Occupations.
Ambulance driver.
Well,
I was significantly better.
it was significantly better.
Things that you were about to shout, I was hoping for an arsehole, to be honest.
I couldn't think.
I really was. I was just hoping, arsehole. That'd have been fucking brilliant.
In my head, I thought it has to be like prolonged and in pain, stuff like that. I'll do.
No, that worked. No, Sam, that was a significant improvement. You did use the word arm quite a lot, but
I'll use it before now.
we'll allow it, because I think you used it.
Stuck in something.
Yeah. You used it 3 times. If you'd used it one more, I think I would have had to have passed you, but we'll
It's
allow
either
it for the
arm
3
or
more.
arse, and I thought I can't say
Yeah.
arse, so I need to say arm and be nice.
But anyway, so as I told you before, okay, the record for our group of class friends that have done this is Megan, who got 8 right and done it in 1 minute and 5 seconds, okay? Now, your time, Sam,
Right.
with 8 correct is 1 minute and 5 seconds. Exactly the same as Megan's time.
Oh well.
It's a good effort, though. It's a good effort. Considering when you started that, it was a solid effort.
I thought that was going to be under a minute or so, but then the 2 passes probably fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been like a 40, 50-second one if it wasn't for the passes.
It's because you said video game, and I thought I can't think of it in my head. I just thought Portal, Skyrim. Don't know anything else. Undertale, maybe. Like what else is there?
Video games beginning with A. There is one in my head, but I'm just looking at it actually now. Fuck it, there's a load of video games.
I didn't think. I was going to say Atari. I
Alien
thought
versus Predator, there's one. And that's the only one I can see, so that'll do.
If I'd have just said arcade games or something, I would have tried to cheat my way out of it, to be honest.
Yeah, but you are a cheat wee bastard.
I'd have definitely tried to cheat it.
But nah, Sam, listen, really appreciate having you on. Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thanks. We'll hopefully get you back on at some point again soon. But until then, it'll be just me and Jamie next week, obviously. But so,
Oh, shame.
I know, poor Jamie. Until then, I suppose I've been Liam Whyte.
I've been Jimmy Allan.
I've been Samantha Barr.
We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
We talk football and current events, sitting and chatting with the very best guests. We're two Scottish boys and we're loving it. So if you like witty banter, check the former #1 podcast on iTunes. Sitting and chatting.